All right, guys, we'll go over our man defense. No middle man defense, man-to-man defense. So we're starting with, we're just going to run on offense. We're just going to run a 4-out, our offense. Not going to really run our offense, but our positioning, the 4-out, 1-in opposite the ball to go through our jobs. We're going to face a point guard a lot. If we see a point guard, it's no middle. You're going to square up and try to get him to go one way or the other. And then once he does, you're going to get a high foot on the coming back to the middle. Means he tries, you're going to try and keep him from getting back. You're going to keep him over on whatever side you drive him to. So if he drove to this side, you're getting a high foot. If he tries to come back, you're trying to keep him over on that side. So we'll talk about some of the terminology to make sure you guys are familiar. I'm sure most of you are. Talk about deny and gap defense. Gaps are these gaps in between these players here. These gaps. So if we're playing a gap defense because the team we're playing against has guys that are driving, like a Kyrie type, really hard for one guy to manage, we will squeeze the gaps to make it less likely for him to go. We've made the gap smaller. Now he's probably forcing it, risking turnovers. So that's gap. If we have good defenders, really good defenders, and we can manage, we will go into deny. And that means ball and man. You're seeing ball and man, but you're coming up denying even the pass. So even if they got back out, you would look like this. You would be denying the pass. So obviously the gaps are bigger, but we trust this guy to manage, and we're really putting pressure on the ball and the passing. That's ideal. It is very hard. We'll probably be in gap or playing off most of the time. But just so you understand the terminology of deny and gap defense. And it usually refers to one pass away from the ball. One pass, one pass. Bring these guys back down. So, we will look at who's in help and who has helped the helper, or cover down. I'll use both terms. Probably so are your coaches. So we'll work on this guy driving first. And we do not want to give up this drive. This is where I get mad. Really don't want to give that up. If they're running picks, we switch. We really do not want them coming down the center because our help and who has helped the helper gets hard. We do not mind if they get beat. We're trying to keep them from getting to the middle and they start driving this way. We're okay. So we'll assume that's what's happened. Again, divide the court in the middle. This guy has this guy to guard. He's watching ball and man. He sees the drive. These two guys always go together. Whoever's in the weak side of the ball, the side that doesn't have the ball on it, are in help. The lowest guy's always in help. The next lowest guy's always in cover down. You can see we have 3 guys here in this example. And this guy's always going to drop down a little bit as well. They're all going to shift. So they get this drive. This guy's in help. I'm always talking about getting outside the paint. It's a certain distance. It's roughly, I want you outside the paint on the sidelines and the low block when drives are coming in those areas. And it's about the same distance all the way around. So you're not going to get out here outside the paint. That's awesome if you do. That's a miracle. I don't expect that. It would be you're down here covering, so it's going to be somewhere in here. We just want to have them far enough away that they really can't make layups or easy shots. So this, relative to our court size, would be about right. And when he comes over, this guy's always covering down towards the basket and help the helper. This guy's going to drop a little bit too. Then this guy would run into him and we would look like that. That looks pretty good for a stop. Obviously he has him or him. We got one guy here kind of guarding 2 because we have 2-on-1 here. That's fine. Those are called rotations. I'm not going to get into those much in this video because there's endless possibilities. But just so you know, in practice, when I'm talking about rotations, and you guys are going to have to learn to communicate, if this guy picked up the ball, in this case, and we stopped his drive, he picks it up, he's looking to pass, the easiest rotation would be for this guy to turn around, and he was on him. He's now switching to him, and he's back on his man. They're engaged. He makes his pass, whatever, to get out. And we just stay switched, however that works. That's how that would work. And those are called rotations. Those require communication because they can be different every time. A general rule is you're running to the guy you're closest to. All right, so we saw what it looked like with this guy driving. We'll look at it with this guy driving. So this is easier to see. So it's way down here. So I expect my guys on the weak side to be all even with the basket. And here we are. And we can be a little bit in gap since he's down. Depends on how good a shooter this guy is as to how much you're in gap. A lot of coaches will refer to this as also helping. You're helping cover the gap. But to me, that gets confusing. To me, when I'm referring to help, I'm always talking about the guy on the lowest point on the weak side. When I'm talking about help the helper or cover down, I'm always talking about the next highest guy on the weak side is cover down. So I will refer to gap and not help in this situation, but you will have coaches talk about that help. So we look pretty good. We're making the gap small for this guy to drive. This guy is here, an easy help distance. That's why we're not way back here. That's not an easy help distance. We're right here. He can't get it. The ball can't go to this guy. And even the skip pass, yes, they can make that skip pass, but this guy still has a good chance of stealing it or at least being there when he catches it. That's not that far a distance if you're hustling. So this is something we struggle with in practice, and even this guy's not one pass away. So like I said, he's cheating down pretty good. Again, they pass to him. He's got a good chance of stealing it or certainly being there when he catches it. All fine. So we'll look at if this guy gets beat. He drives baseline. He beats. This guy would immediately come over. So they would look like this. At the same time, they're rotating like that. And this guy's going to drop down a little further. So everybody on weak side is dropping down to some degree. Lowest guy is in help. That's what he did. The next lowest guy was here. He went into cover down or help the helper to protect the weak side. And you're usually running at the basket. I see a lot of you kind of going over here. And, he'll beat you and get in front. You're almost always going to head to the basket, and then you can kind of get in front and push him back, get ready for a rebound. So you're keeping that guy off should they drive on this formation and this side. So pretty simple. Same thing if he should get that ball out. Let's say he gets it out and jumps up and throws it way over here. So we're back to our rotations. I'm not spending a ton of time, but obviously this guy is closest. He's going to run out there. This guy's going to run here, and this guy's going to fill here. You have to communicate that. As far as our practices and our defense, rotations I'm worried about last. I'm worried about you guys understanding how to come over and who's in help and who's in cover down. That's number one. As we get good at that, hopefully soon, then we'll care and talk about more about our rotations. But I can tell you the answer is talking. You're going to have to talk about who and point and say, I got ball, all those things. You're going to have to tell each other where you're going. So that's how that would work. So now we'll look at a drive with a post player on the same side, on the strong side. So this gets more difficult. This ball is up towards the middle. So we're dropped, say somewhere in there. And this, you guys want to be as close to a foot in the paint as you can when the ball crosses center. Now understand, with this guy's one pass away, so he's probably going to look like that. But this guy's 2 passes away. He'd probably look like that and get close to getting that foot in the paint. That's important to understand. As the ball goes further over, these guys will all be lined up with the basket. That'll be coming on the next example. So let's say we drive, we're going to drive this one. Again, high foot. If we're going to get beat, it should never be this way. It's going to happen off of screens, but I'm going to teach y'all to switch and communicate. But we don't want it to happen much at all. We want high foot to make them go towards the sidelines. So the likely scenario is you get beat this way. This isn't the worst thing. Of course, I don't want you getting beat, but I definitely don't want you getting beat to the middle, so this is going to happen. So here comes the confusion, the first very challenging part to understand. So to keep it simple and the same so you guys can learn it, I want you to care that the lowest guy on the weak side is always in help. The next lowest guy on weak side is always cover down or help the helper. Always. To keep that rule. So when this guy drives, everybody wants this guy to help. That's fine. It makes some sense, especially if they were guarding like this. It makes sense. If he's fronting him, it makes sense. If he's back behind, it might be too hard for him to get. So this guy's headed to the strong side because he's either going to be helping this guy or he's going to replace and guard this guy. So again, to avoid confusion, I want this guy to always feel like he's in help. I don't necessarily, and he'll have to read this guy. So if this guy comes off to help, then this guy is still coming over to help side. He's taking the help, and this guy is cover down. Always this guy is going to be cover down. Always this guy in this spot will be, or the next highest. Like before, you had 3 guys. So the next highest guy in this area is always cover down. The lowest guy is always coming over in help. When there is a post player, he reads the post defender as to whether he's trapped and he's coming over in help, fine. Or they're coming off and he's coming over to take over the post player. Either way is fine with me. I just want to make sure that you understand that whoever's in this spot of the court is always coming over to the strong side on a drive. Always. And then you read the other defender. Okay? So hopefully that's not confusing, but that's the read of this guy as to which one. And generally, just to give you a rule, if you're 3/4 front on that drive, it's probably pretty easy for you to take this help. If you're full front, really easy to take this help right here. If you get stuck behind and this guy gets a good seal, then you're probably going to end up staying and this guy comes over and help. So that's the read. So I definitely want this guy always seeing himself as help. Always. Even if he came up and you both came up, he can see and drop. And figure it out that way. All right, now we'll look at the wing position driving. And this is all the same for the corner. And this, trying to make an entry pass, he's probably on the low side, 3/4 fronting like that. If this guy goes all the way to the corner, then a full front for down in the corner. As he comes up, you can drop around to the side so you don't get screened back there and defend. So we'll just call this a 3/4 front. So, and see all these guys, the ball's way over on this side, so our guys are all the way even with the basket. Notice that. That's important. You guys are terrible. My original team I'll speak of is terrible at that. You guys will be out here. There's no way you're going to get to help that far away. We got to get better. So you're here, ball in man. Notice that position where this guy can see ball in man. Notice he's where he can see ball in man, so this guy can't cut behind him, right? This guy's in gap, a little bit of deny, looking at ball in man. They're positioned that way. This guy should have a high foot because we want to keep them over. We want to bury him down in here if we can. Bury him, run him out there, or run him into the sideline. We do not want them getting out this way, so he's still guarding high foot. So here we go again with the same scenario that I just told you about. So he burns this guy somehow. He gets him, and they're probably going together. He's probably got him on his shoulder. Maybe he's getting slightly ahead. You guys got to read it. I always want this guy, as soon as he sees the beginning of that drive, that he is coming over and this guy is dropping down. You can communicate. In this case, this looks pretty easy for him, for the guy defending the post player to become the help that traps him here, and this guy ends up defending the post player. Okay? So he still came over. He just reads the defender. Is he staying on it? Just say he stayed on him, it's no problem from him to come around here and defend that. And these guys, keep defending him. He tries to get open. Nothing wrong with that. We have the nice cover down. Still trying to see ball and man where these guys might cut so we can defend that. So that's what that would look at like. In all examples, this guy, the lowest guy, is always coming over into the block, out, headed for outside the paint. He reads what this guy's doing, and you guys got to communicate. And you could just read him. If he stays, this guy drops down, he stays, and say this guy got this side, this guy slipped down, then clearly this guy's going to be in help, and this guy's always covering down. His job won't change. Always. And this guy's probably dropping back. Yeah, we're giving up some, bad looking threes. Again, this is why we don't want to give up middle. We don't want to give up those middle drives. He's probably like this. He's kind of guard too. This guy knows that if he throws it there, that's him. He throws it there, that's his rotation, closest to the ball. If this guy throws it to here, that's his rotation. He's closest to the ball. If he throws it here, he has to know that that's also this guy too. He throws it here, he's coming. In this case, this guy would go here, and this guy would go out, and this guy that would beat would go back to guarding his original man. Let's address one more thing. So there's been questions about this guy involved in, I do not mind him involved in gap, but here, just watch so you're not confused. So where I don't mind, this guy is trying to come and drive here, and this guy kind of helps stunt or does gap and gets this guy stopped so he can go, and he's never really left this guy as a threat to shoot or beat him back door. That's absolutely fine. I encourage it. Where I don't like, this guy would drive, so our guy is in help outside the paint on this, cover down, dropping a little, and this guy stayed on his side. So this is what I need you to understand. I never mind. So if you can get in here and strip the ball and get it, I am all for it. But what happens when this guy does that is often he turns his back, we give this up, and we give a layup here. That just can't happen. Also, we get too far, we throw it. This guy's in trouble with these two guys. He's got nowhere to go. You guys can see he's got nowhere to go. He's in pretty bad trouble. So, this guy comes in and doesn't see this guy move out. Now he's got an easy pass out and a wide open three. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. So there's people on team, I hate that stuff. I hate when that guy fouls and when we have a perfect trap in our help and bails this guy out, or he turns and gets involved and gives him an easy out that draws good shots and high percentage scoring opportunities. Drives me nuts. Now, this guy is able to do both. He's able to get in here, steal the ball, latch onto it, cause a jump ball without risking those things. I'm all for it. You can do it. I love aggressiveness. You just got to understand my point. I mean, a lot of times these guys drive wide out here, then you're closer to your man. It makes more sense. You can get involved and not risk this guy. But again, don't foul. So I hope you guys understand why I have that rule.